If you're a teacher and looking to develop your career within ELT, you might be wondering what options there are. Today, we're going to talk about the different career paths within ELT and the different options you might take now or in the future. So option 1, going in-house in publishing, in a role such as an editor, for example. There are many qualifications that you can do in order to become an editor. For example, working with the CIEP or the Chartered Institute of Editing Professionals. This is a really great way to build your editing skills before applying for a job in-house, so that you've got a bit of experience and understand a little bit about the industry and what might be expected of you in this role. There are lots of publishing companies that still take editors in-house, and a great way to find out which publishers are hiring is to look on platforms like LinkedIn, perhaps on Indeed, and also to have a look at the course books you're teaching with. Who are those publishers? Perhaps have a quick Google and see if they're looking for any in-house editors as well. Option 2, become a teacher trainer. So this was my first step on the path to developing my career within ELT. I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity within my language school to teach teachers who had come from abroad to study teacher training at our school. We had a ready-made syllabus and a ready-made curriculum and lots of materials that I was given in order to help me on my first teacher training journey. Now, you might have similar within your school, so it's definitely worth asking your director of studies. However, if not, a great way to start doing this might be to hold CPD sessions within your institution, or perhaps online if you work for yourself. This could be things like holding webinars on a topic that you're passionate about, or perhaps sharing a classroom practice that went well for you with the other teachers in your school. This is a really great first step to building your confidence and building your experience in teacher training. Once you've had the opportunity to lead some CPD sessions, you might go down the route of doing a YouTube channel where you can share your teaching practices and experiences. Or perhaps you might start working with different organisations to see if you can provide some sort of external teacher training too. If this is not possible, you can also go to conferences and become a speaker at conferences to build up your reputation as a freelance teacher trainer, or at least a teacher trainer who is willing to work in partnership with different organisations as well. Option 3, freelance teacher. Now, you might already be doing this, however you might work in an institution, but many teachers nowadays are looking to forge their own careers and become a freelance teacher. Now, there are many online platforms that you can use in order to make money and also to advertise yourself to the wider teaching audience as well. I'm not advocating for any of these because I've heard that some of the payments might be quite low for some of these. For example, platforms like Preply. However, use your own knowledge, do your own research and see what might work for you. Alternatively, once you know students are leaving your school, perhaps they might want some one-to-one classes or more private classes. So do feel free to reach out to your students if you're able to contractually and see if you're able to start private classes from there. A good way to start teaching for yourself is to use a platform that you feel comfortable with already, such as Zoom, and then you can build up your digital skills in order to make those classes as engaging and inclusive as possible if you do stick to teaching online. My own experience of this is when I was teaching in Spain and I signed up to a website called Tus Clases Particulares. I believe it still exists, and you could create a profile for yourself, sort of like an advert saying what you teach, what your hourly rate is and your availability, and students would reach out to you to see if you're able to give them private classes. So it's definitely worth seeing if something like that exists where you live. Career option 4, materials writing. As a teacher, you might use materials and think, I could make something better than this, or I create my own materials already, I want to get paid for this. So there's many ways that you can get paid for your materials. You can upload them to websites such as Teachers Pay Teachers and build up a database of teachers who trust your materials and pay for your materials and download your materials. Again, using a platform like LinkedIn can be really useful to build up your network and start selling your own materials to other teachers. For me personally, this is something that I do every day. So I am a materials writer and I specialise in digital materials, item writing and assessment preparation materials. So my journey was a little unique. I found that there was someone who had dropped out of a project for a publisher, so I was able to write a sample for a photocopyable activity for a student's book. I did the paid sample, I got the work, and it sort of spiraled from there until I eventually left teaching. However, this might be an opportunity for you too. Make connections, go to conferences, network as much as possible, and don't be afraid to approach those authors that you admire and have used their materials too. I approached an author that I absolutely admired at a conference, and I took all of her wisdom and ideas, and that then led me to my freelance journey, which I'm forever grateful for, and I tell her every time I see her at a conference now. A great way to get experience in materials writing is to analyze the materials that you're using. How would you improve that activity? How do you already adapt those materials to suit your learning context and your students? That's a great way to think about how to get into materials writing. Another option might be to write for websites, blogs, and articles online. There are things like The Voices magazine or Modern English Teacher. See if you can submit articles to those journals in order to get your writing and your experience and your reputation built up as well. Career option 5, Director of Studies or Assistant Director of Studies. Now, going into management within ELT might be something you've already considered, but perhaps you're not sure how to get there. So think about perhaps doing your Delta and doing the academic management portion in part 3. You can also ask for a shadowing experience to see what an ADOS or a DOS does every day. You could also start by helping out with admin within your school as well, such as reviewing teacher lesson plans, sitting in on lesson observations, and generally helping out with the day-to-day admin of perhaps placement tests or student attendance as well.